Welcome to the round 5 edition of the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I'm sitting in a ute in Adelaide, Spook.
And we're doing a podcast this week because I think Spook just explained why. And we're coming a little bit later after we played on Easter Thursday. Spook, what did you think of the game against Brisbane?
I know you're going to hate on it, but there's elements of me that I'm subscribing to the honourable loss thing, even though I hate the term. I still am investing in that there's something building there with the club, and I don't mind the losses when the performance like that ended up being okay.
I can't believe how much you're going to hate on that. I'm happy that they're building to something. The concerns would be defensively, you're constantly getting these big scores kicked against you. The defense fucking leaks like I don't want to use a cliche like sieve. It leaks.
That's one I don't really fathom, because previously under Buckle, defence was pretty tight. It's unravelling now under Fly, but I suspect that there's an underlying reason for that, and that they're going to be trying something new, and it's just taking longer for them to pick it up. Or maybe they're just shit. I know I haven't worked out what the difference between the two may be at the moment, but potentially I think it could also be that there's a couple of really old blokes there now too. That's probably not helping things. But anyway.
Look, I just, prior to the old blokes coming back, Howe's been generally pretty good. Moore's been terrible this year. He's one of the younger ones, but, traditionally when you do a knee, sometimes that year, after you come back, it's just, you don't hit full cylinders until like a year later.
It can't be bad. The club's pumping his tyres up on the Twitter feed.
Oh, well, that's why he signed him for 9 years. But
it is justification time, you think. But anyway, he's not terrible.
I'm going to get back to Moore in a minute because he's been terrible. But my problem is it is all those losses in the 2 wins. So remember, we were 2-0 and now we're 2-3. So in the 3 losses, you're just seeing the same things. You're seeing skill errors, some really poor decision making. Forward 50 entries are just fucking atrocious. I'm not defending Mason Cox, but in the third quarter, there was one where they missed him by 20 meters to the right, to the far side of the screen. And then 2 minutes later, they missed him like 20 meters to the left on the closer side of the screen. It's diabolical how badly their forward entries remain. It just shouldn't be that fucking hard. So in terms of the game plan, all that's like, okay, it works if you execute it well. Now, the question is, are these guys ever going to execute it well? For years, we justify Buckley's game plan saying, oh, well, once it clicks, it'll work. But that really never seemed to happen. So that would be one of my bigger concerns is that I know it's only 5 rounds in, but you're seeing the same things, the same problems.
I think there's clearly a chasm there, a chasm when it comes to some of the skill execution. But you would hope that stuff that can be fixed. But it is a concern, like you said, that it is a bit of a washover. It's the same sort of stuff, and that's that might just take a lot longer to eradicate, if at all. Now, but hopefully it is. And look, I'm living in a lot of hope.
When we played, that first quarter, we sort of ran over the top of them. Typically, another issue has been there's just been lapses throughout performances. So, the opposition is always going to get a look in and get the counter attack. And they did that in the second quarter. I don't know how hard Brisbane really tried. It felt like they were just holding us at bay, and they always had more in the tank. Were you surprised by the selection?
I don't know. Sorry?
Were you surprised by the selections of going up to Brisbane with Dewey and bringing in or playing Cox and
78 talls
on top of Grundy, Moore, Roughhead, and Kruger? And it was just a really tall side.
I think that was a gamble, and it didn't pay off. Cox and Cameron were non-existent. So it's I think it was worth a shot, I guess. But ultimately, it didn't fire one. Losing Mio was always going to be a drama. Who else did we lose?
Who haven't we lost? Ginnivan to calf soreness, so he'll be back round 21. McCreary's been out.
You're optimistic.
He's apparently back round 2, according to the club. My check,
he had the COVID close contact nonsense.
Round 6. Elliott shoulder to be confirmed, so he'll never come back. I mean, I'm actually impressed by Dean. Dean, he's gone from he'll be back about round 8. Now apparently it's round 14 plus. So he's working on that. Ash Johnson, hamstring, round 13 to 14. So he'll be back about round 20, just in time to play 2 games. Promise a lot. And
I think if the club wants to be serious, they're going to have to start including the year in these projections as well.
Murphy, round 8 or 9. So he'll be back soon to do another injury. And Roughhead now has also done a finger injury. So he came back just in time to do an injury. And I think you said before.
What is it with all the finger injuries? That's about the 58th one in the last 4 years.
You can only imagine that.
It's like a friend of ours said in a text today, at least they got the finger injury out of the way early. Yeah, that's just one. There'll be about 24 of them. Look, it used to be soft tissue injuries. Now it's fingers.
No.
What is there? Is there a problem coding their entry passcode into the Lexus? No, it's not Lexus Center. Was it this week?
I don't know. Let me correct you though.
Whatever it is,
it wasn't. It didn't used to be soft tissue, and now it's fingers. It's soft tissues and also fingers. So they're doing both. You got to give them credit. Building.
Maybe they're doing the finger injury, massaging the soft tissues.
Oh, maybe the finger injury is a soft tissue injury. Have you thought about that?
I
was going to say, as far as losses go, I mean, it was very, it's pretty much what we'd seen previously. So there's not really a lot to cover in terms of game plan, and we're going to give them leeway because, as you said, they're building to something. So
yeah,
if we're still,
and then the encouraging thing I found out of this game is like in the last couple of weeks we've failed to fire a shot in the last quarter. At least they had a crack, had a dip. We have a dip. Who used to say it? Sure. At least they had a dip. But they could have dropped their heads and got steamrolled, which is what I was probably expecting at any rate. But they fought back and got pretty close. So that I found encouraging too. And this is that whole thing about this period where you are developing. Yeah, you've got to take encouragement out of some of these things, but you can't, like Fly said, you can't have, what is it, that quite about 24 honourable losses means you don't win any games or something. Yeah. He probably doesn't even know his own quotes. But that I agree with as well. You can only do this for a certain period of time before you want to see a couple of wins come out of it as well, because the intensity is clearly there and the execution, when it's good, is very good. But it's just those lapses and then the skill deficiencies that's killing us at the moment. Yeah, but it's a developing side at the same time. I don't think your expectations were particularly high. So
I thought we'd go undefeated like a lot of our Twitter rates. But yeah, as I said, I was going to say that, if we're still doing this in round 15, 16, then yeah, I think it becomes open slather in terms of criticism to say this. Maybe it's not going to work for you. I mean, would there have been a better chance of it working for us if we weren't playing that thug, Jordan Ngoe? I mean, what's he doing?
He's upsetting a lot of people on Twitter. He's supposed to be in jail, I believe. Tell you, on that performance again, in his start to the year, that's the one signature they've got to lock down sooner rather than later. Just put it to bed. I don't give a shit about the people who bleat endlessly about him. He's very good.
So you don't give a shit about the people who bleak about him?
Bleak? Did I say bleak?
I don't know.
I meant to say bleat.
Well, prick me, do I not bleak?
Squealing like stuck pigs.
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, the game plan's the game plan, so we're going to give it some leeway. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to throw this out because I've only been saying it for 24 years. A forward line of Cox and Cameron, if I was the opposition coach, I'd just be going, yeah, that's pretty funny, Collingwood. Maybe they'll mark some, but there's a better chance that they won't. Mason Cox, is he finished? I mean, they're saying now he's a great American experiment over.
Oh, he's 31. I don't think so. I just don't think he just looks ridiculous in those glasses. May I just quietly add? I don't know whether they're helping or hindering. I just don't think he's part of the future. So what's the point in really playing him? We signed him on for another year, didn't we? That was it.
Probably signed him for 6. Okay, Collingwood.
Oh, that'll be next week. But yeah, I think you can put a line through that one just quietly. Probably also with Cameron too. But you're going to have to play some semblance of tall. I guess Cox's insurance. If Grundy goes down injured, it won't be doing anything hard at the moment. But yeah,
we'll get to him. Look, I've said it since day one with Cox. He's not a forward. He's a ruckman that you're trying to play forward. And if you could get 7 foot tall players to play forward, well, everybody will be doing it. And he plays that position exactly the way a ruckman would play. Every now and again, he has a good game. And people go, why doesn't he do that all the time? It's because he's a ruckman. And most times when you put a ruckman down there, they do nothing for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then they'll kick a few goals and everybody will get excited. In the history of the game, the only ruckman I know who played the forward position well was Paul Salmon, and then Peter Everett also to an extent. Every other ruckman who goes down there just does exactly what Cox is doing. So I don't think he's, he's a problematic forward, but I think they've been asking him to do something he's just not capable of doing his entire career. And I was just going to say, and I'm going to go back on this fucking horse because it's me, and I get a little bit obsessive. Put Myercheck back in that forward line and put Kruger next to him and put Moore next to him. And that, if I was an opposition coach, I'd be scared. I'd be scared of Moore, Kruger, as long as Kruger doesn't end up decapitating himself going up for a mark or something. And Myercheck, that is a scary, tall forward line.
The problem is, though... Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, why we persevere with getting these ruckman-sized players and going, well, they're going to be our key forward. And on top of all that, it's like these are speculative players. It's not even, it's not like you're going out to get a Peter Wright, who's another ruckman-sized forward who's proven he, maybe could play that position and he came high in the draft. You're getting guys, Cox would have been pick 184. Cameron was a lowish pick. And it's like, well, you're getting what you paid for. So you're going to say the problem with that is then you stuff up the defense?
Oh, yeah. You obviously, we've got no other tools we can slot back down there. Now, Will Kelly, I think he's planning on coming along in 2,158. But who else we got down there that could slot into the back line?
You got no one at the moment, but ultimately you'd probably want to play that Dean down there, Roughhead when he's not doing finger injuries. Magden gets a lot of flack, and I just think he's not the problem.
No, I agree on that one.
Yeah,
he's not great, but he's not the. He's the easy one for everyone to point to and say what a fuck up.
Yeah,
but I think he tools manfully. His mistakes are nowhere near as his positives outweigh the mistakes. But the mistakes can be glaring at times. But fucking hell, point to anyone in defence at the moment who's not making the same glaring errors and leaking goals. So
yeah, and they're not losing because Magden's in the side. And if you're going to point at a defender who they're losing, it's Moore who stands 20 metres off an opponent and lets his opponents get a free run at it. So I just think with Magden, he's not the issue. He's obviously not going to be part of the long-term future. But in terms of defence, I think it's easier, having played as a defender myself in really high leagues. But, in terms of, it's easier to be a average player and make it as a defender because your objective is always to just spoil. Whereas as a forward, you got to mark, and that's a lot harder to do. So I think they'd find it easier to fill the hole in defence rather than fill that hole up forward. And as I said before, if you had that forward line of Kruger, Moore, and Myercheck, and then you throw in guys like McCreary and Ginnivan and Elliott whenever he's fit, and even Hoskin Elliott, who I know you're a big fan of, it looks like a good forward line.
Yeah, no, don't disagree. He went forward last quarter, Moody, and ended up with a couple. But it just looked like the entry was a little bit more focused when they had someone as a target to kick to. So there'd be merit in what you're saying. Yeah, look,
I was just, I think the other thing too is Mychek and Karuga would immediately become better when there's a guy taking the first best defender, then Mychek slips down to the third best defender. And those guys would.
And it's only a matter of time that, and it's also each week that it's only a matter of time before Kruger ends up killing himself somehow with his attack on it.
You got to really love is just go get the ball, tack the ball, and then turn around and go. You know, none of these little sideways kicks and shit like that. He just wants to propel the side forward. Midfield.
Yep. Do we have one?
It's led by a man named Brodie Grundy.
Do you want to get out of your system now? I'll just go off and have a smoke or something. I don't even smoke.
We know Brodie watches us and listens to us because who doesn't? You know, the one thing that actually surprised me about Grundy, which it took me a while to pick up, is he used to play angry and he doesn't do that anymore.
No, he just looks lost.
And the other thing is go on.
His numbers were terrible this week.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I was going to say also is he has a fixation on the opposition ruckman. You'll keep looking at him and you'll time his attack on the ball. And somewhere along the line, I think he must have copped a big whack from the opponent. And now he's just become so preoccupied with protecting himself that he times his leap to whatever the opposition ruckman is. And it means he's jumping early, he's jumping late, he's just jumping into the opposition ruckman. And he's not actually, you know, you look at someone like Nick Nat or even like Grundy years ago, his whole basis of game was just, I'm just going to jump over you and get the tap. And he doesn't do that anymore. He just jumps into his opponent and times everything around his opponent. The way he's playing, and, you know, you've said it before, you're paying him the big bucks. He needs to work out you know, what sort of footballer do I want to be? Because right now, he's terrible.
It's a concern. And what is he? I think we talked about he's about 28 or something too. You know, he shouldn't be slowing down to a stop at this age. I thought under Fly that he might sort of reinvent himself a little bit, but he's just seems to be going backwards each week.
Yeah.
Maybe hopefully have a blinder this weekend, but it's just not looking likely. And you got that Begg that's, by all accounts, his performances in the ruck and the VFL's very, very encouraging. It's at the point almost with Grundy that you've got to have to earn your spot. He's just not doing enough. And I'm hoping that someone's going to knock down the door and start threatening that. It'll be fucking terrible. And the media will have a field day when the bloke that you signed for 7 years on $1 million a year has dropped to the VFL to get a touch. It'll happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen. He comes good, but you know, at least there's something there that's going to have to make him earn it.
I was just going to say, I mean, you don't even need that big. Go play Cox as the ruck for a couple of weeks. Play Darcy Cameron as the ruck. Play Moore as the ruck. You've got other options there anyway. So, you know, that Cameron's about mid-20s or something. It's like, go see what you have with him. Go see if he's going to be better as a ruckman. Like I said, I think Cox is actually a much better ruckman than he is as you said, 31, he's not really going to be part of the future, but still, you've got alternatives there. And how long do you persevere with this player who's horribly out of form? And there are various issues in his game, which range from, like I said, he just is so fixated now with the opponent, and he fails to adapt to what's happening. He's lost his anger at the game and his intensity, and he's not even doing the other stuff that he used to be good at, like a lot of the ruck roving and that. That's not happening consistently. It's just like, well, drop him then, you know, and just also send the message to the rest of the squad. Well, we're not going to, and I actually like that McRae has dropped players like Henry, and you know, when he's felt like, okay, you've had a chance and you need to do better. So go for it, drop him. I know they won't, but do it.
No, I agree. I think, you know, the message would be pretty fucking hard as a kick up the arse, but you know, maybe that's what he needs. I mean, nothing else seems to be working.
Well, the thing you got to look at is 2019 when he was All Australian, 2020, he started that season good, but then once it got COVID interrupted, he came back and he was really a shadow of himself. And then 2021, he was pretty terrible the whole year. You know, you got to look at like 2020 when we played West Coast in that final in Perth. In that last pivotal ball up bounce, Buckley chose to play Cameron as the ruckman rather than Grundy. So this has been going on for a while. It's not just like, you know, it's happened the last 4 rounds. So they've got to work out what the hell they're going to do. And whether that's just paying the soft cap tax and bringing in someone like Peter Moore and that just to, you know, to privately tutor him and go, well, this is what you need to do.
Yep. I reckon he's needed that for years. We just don't believe in specialised ruck coaches. You know, you look at even all the good work that Monkey's done over at Hawthorn with their ruck division over the years. You know, and look at him. He's not exactly your pristine athlete anymore, but clearly he has that tactical nous or an understanding of the position that he's imparting wisdom, and I think that's partly what he needs as well. I think he's gotten by so far on natural talent, but it's just now it's just all over the place. It needs to be rehoned back into something that can be an effective weapon again.
Well, it's even something like, again, you know, maybe just toss it up and just go, well, Cox is going to ruck. We're going to fucking play on the wing. Just run around the wing for a bit, you know, just
like Richo.
But it's also maybe the problem is he's been just too fixated on trying to rediscover his form as a ruckman. And it's like, well, you're overthinking it now. Maybe we just need to let you play and, you know, rediscover your touch just for the game. And then we'll use that as a stepping stone to go next into, hey, you've rediscovered some form around the ground. Now we'll push you back into the ruck. I mean, the other thing too, Grundy is like I've always said he doesn't play as a traditionally tall ruckman, doesn't have those big marks and all that sort of stuff. There's aspects of his game that I won't blame McRae because he's just got him there, but that they should have been looking at in his developmental years. They never seem to have honed that. They just sort of seem to believe we've got a athletic phenom here. Let him just find his own way. And it's like, well, this is where we are now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. But, you know, when Malthouse got to us, you know, you pretty much jettisoned 50% of the list straight off the bat. And it was a fairly high number the following year that was cut before he started building what he wanted. Now, we haven't seen really anyone cut at Collingwood. And I don't think you can do that sort of stuff anymore with the way that lists are. But it'll be interesting. I think there's a number of players that probably should be culled at the end of the year. I'm not saying Grundy's one of them, but it's almost interesting to go. Yeah, well, it clearly ain't going to happen. But yeah, it's that whole thing about, look, McRae is doing the best with what he's got, but you know, clearly he's going to have to put a line through some of them and think that they're lost causes, and next year will be a completely different ball game. So whether that impacts the way that you manage that first year of a club like the way we are at the moment, you know, we can be competitive and stuff, but we're lacking a lot of A grade talent. You know, who would you consider to be our A graders at the moment? It's probably DeGoey and Nick Davis. That was a joke, but that's it really. The rest of them are, you know, probably high B's to C's, but you know, we're really lacking some of that polish that's needed, and you know, hopefully we get that into the year. This comes back to that whole strategy of, look, it's great to win, and you know, it's encouraging for the list and learning a game plan, all that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, this year I'm not too particularly fussed about wins. If we end up with better picks at the end of the year and we can nail a couple of fucking clear needs, like an inside mid or a key forward or a key defender, I'd be fucking chuffed as. And then, you know, you'd start looking at next year as that elevation attack to improvement.
Yeah, look, I agree mostly. Just the thing is, you know, I don't want to go too young because that just can also work against you in some ways, because you know that senior framework. So it's like if you just keep playing Hoskin Elliott for another year rather than having a forward line set up, which is Ginnivan, McCreary, and some other youngster, Henry, you know, and you're really relying on to an extent where they're doing stuff or they're being subjected to pressures but they shouldn't be too soon. So that would be my only concern. But yeah, I agree.
No, that's fair.
I don't really like, you know, this philosophy that a lot of supporters have that can be a quick turnaround. It's like, all right, what's going to be a quick turnaround?
No.
Go play clubs that have been sitting on the bottom for 5 years and team is full of top 10 picks, and let's see how that goes. Will it just be
we've had glaring deficiencies for years, and none of them has been addressed. I think once they are, that's the start of the rebuild in effect. At the moment, we're in a mini rebuild phase. We're trying different things and blooding or getting games into the ones we think are going to be part of the future. But this isn't finished by a long shot.
Yeah, look, I 100% agree. So in terms of the architecture of the rebuild, I hope they're realistic more than idealistic, because, I know I've been tipping Carlton to come up for about 28 years, but I look at their side with, Curnow, McKay, Wiedering. I mean, that Plowman's is sort of more of a plotter, but, he was a top pick. So they got like a spine in place, and then with their midfield, they got that Sarah, who was like a pick 5. Walsh, who's a freakish pick 1. Cripps was a lower pick, but he's a gun. So
he's got an injured finger though.
Yeah, so he probably won't play again. Oh wait, he's at Carlton. But they've got a really good nucleus, and that's when you can start. That's why like Jack Silvani suddenly looks like a world beater. It's like, well, you got better players around him, and you get back to a 218 grand final side. Still, you look at it, like Tyson Goldsack was your full back, Jeremy Howe and Tom Lenk were your centre half backs. Your centre half forward is my check, and your full forward is Cox. And it's like, you really thought you'd win in flag with this spine? No disrespect to them, they tried their best, but if you're constantly putting these square pegs in the round holes and somehow thinking that this is going to work out for us. Just going to throw this out there. We're surprised that West Coast just suddenly fell in a fucking heap against Sydney.
Wasn't it staggering? And they had a number of better players back too, which you didn't see that coming. Yeah, look, I don't know what it is. I think mentally sides, I think, just like to lift against us. It's it's bewildering. But we were terrible that day too. It just makes the loss now even harder to swallow.
Yeah, I think the other thing though too is, I mean, we're talking to some people in relation to the game coming up against Essendon. So Essendon's come off an embarrassing loss, and they've got players out, and yet the attitude is still, I can see us dropping this. And this is
absolutely.
And
I'm shitting bricks.
Yeah, this is the problem.
You hear the clinks?
Well, this is the problem with Collingwood. It's just, I'm not saying it's a problem with the fans, because we're being programmed to feel this way. It's not like we're just being pessimistic. It's like, this has happened before, and it's happened time and time again, and that's why we anticipate it. So it would be great if the club recognised this culture and just said, fuck, we need to not drop these danger games. And the thing too is, I reckon if you look at something like a West Coast, like when we played them last week, if we just came out and smashed them in the first quarter, that would have been it. It would have been like, they would have realised it's a shit side, it's a tough struggle, but the whole game, they were in it. So, momentum carried it at the end. It's just, we don't seem to have that ruthlessness to say, we're going to smash the shit out of you and humiliate you. So anyway,
Yeah, and I hope that's high up the priority list of things to address. And Fly comes across as a good guy, and worldly and an educator, all that sort of stuff. But geez, I hope he's going to kill instinct. He came from a side that was a pack of pricks. Hopefully, he's going to bring some of that to it. You look at it, and I think you're always going to have comparisons, because I think we were pretty close to nabbing Mitchell as a coach. You look at the way Hawthorn are executing that win against Geelong the other day. That was impressive. And that's a side that's developing. Yeah, and you wonder how much of that is that, and that's what I really wanted if we were going to get Mitchell, was that real fucking killer blow instinct. And I just hope that Fly has the same approach. I'm sure he does, but I'd like to see a little bit of fucking anger sometimes from the side.
Oh, look, I got to say in relation to Hawthorn, they've really surprised me. The game against the Easter Monday game, I really expected them to drop it once Geelong started coming back, and I had to go out. And then when I checked the score at the final siren, it was like, shit, they actually won. They held on against the Geelong that was sort of rampaging and has history of Hawthorn, so they'd want to smash them up, and Hawthorn won. And I look at that Hawthorn side, it's not like it's got any fucking great players in it at the moment. I mean, they're all sort of young. It's got a few better players at the top end, but there's not like there's any elite talent there. And the guys who are elite, you know, like Gunston, what the hell's Gunston, about 64 now? So Mitchell's done an amazing job, and you know, everyone was sort of going, well, why did you get rid of Clarkson? It's like, well, fuck, maybe they were right. Maybe they saw something in Mitchell that showed, and this guy can coach.
It's clearly a mindset thing.
Yeah, but so I just hope that Fly has that similar ruthlessness. Clash against Essendon, they were embarrassing against Fremantle. So you know what that means. It means they will be stung into action. Yep.
Well, you've already had Lloyd come out. I think there was a clip on Twitter where he's declared he's put a line through them. They're fucked. You know, it's always where a former fucking champion comes out and uses that position in the media to pump up a side. You know, that's happened. So we can put a tick next to that. We've already started dropping players, so Roughhead's out. That's the other lead into this sort of thing. It's just all steering perfectly for a diabolical loss.
Well, we lost in the VFL, but we had some good players. Henry was good again.
Poulter, I believe.
Yeah, you know, so
again,
and McRae was actually Finley McRae was really good too. So he's potentially someone that could come back, but there's no one. You know, I mean, DeGoey came back and had like an immediate impact. So there's no one you'd imagine is going to be like that. It's the big, you know.
Mio.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. But, you know, he might not have the total DeGoey impact because DeGoey was phenomenal. You know, 20 possessions, kicked 4 goals. And some of the goals, I mean, that last goal, he kicked a banana kick. Was
just, Jesus, that was just incredible.
Actually, and can I point this out too? Sorry, because I forgot. You know what fuck pissed me off? The goalie kicked that with about 2.5 minutes left, and then he ran off, and he never got back onto the ground, I believe.
No, it's the stupidest rule.
Oh, not rule. It's whatever this.
Well, no, it's a guideline or whatever it is. But it's always been the case. You kick a goal, and that player comes off. It just doesn't make sense.
And especially the goalie.
It's just that, yeah.
You know, it's like, hang on, this is the guy's on your premier midfielders, and he just kicked the most goals also for you. And you're taking him off. It's like, what the fuck? If I was McRae and I saw him running off, I would have just got back on the phone and I think he was actually on the lines there anyway. I was just go fucking run back on, go stand at full forward for the next minute, catch your breath, and then go into the midfield. We don't need you parked on the bench for 2 minutes while this game unfolds and you're a match winner. So it's just ridiculous. Yeah, but against Essendon, as you said, I mean, they've been stung, they've been shit. They've been terrible. I mean, the one game they won, which was against Adelaide, and they just won that. I saw some of that Fremantle game. They were really embarrassing. It's shocking how terrible they've been. So we can expect
all the blokes that usually stitches up as at least isn't playing. So there is some level of, geez, we should. Yeah, but you never can confidently say it.
This is the thing. You don't want it to be like, geez, we should. It should just be like, let's smash the shit out. I don't know what happens inside the coaches' rooms. I know we're past the years of rah-rah, we're going to smash someone. But having said that, if I was coach, I'd be like Sensei Kreese from Cobra Kai. You know, I'd be fucking mercies for the weak. You know, you can smell these people are vulnerable. Let's fucking drive them into the ground and smash them. Let's humiliate them and enjoy doing it. Enjoy punishing them. I know that's not the attitudes that you generally have now in football, but fuck. I'd be looking at them.
No, fuck it.
They're shit.
Totally agree.
They're an old enemy. Smash them.
Yep. Put them to the sword.
Yeah, totally. So, anyway, I don't know who we're going to bring in. I mean, we're still days away. We're playing Monday, so we're still quite a way away from the game. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fucking around selections.
Well, there'll be 24 injuries before then too.
Yeah, so there's plenty of time. I don't know what the forecast is going to be like for that day. I mean, Melbourne just changed overnight, went from fucking shorts and singlet weather to overcoats in the space of about 12 hours. What's your tip?
Essendon by about 148 goals.
Okay, that's going to be a close one then. I'll say Collingwood by 26 points.
No, I mean, the thing is, like, on paper, we should win this by 10 goals. Yeah, they've got nothing. But then, fucking, they couldn't beat the waffle side that West Coast rolled out. So what level of confidence do you have? Look, if they play the game like they did against the Cats and against Brisbane, if they play like that, we're a shoo-in. I think it's also an important game too that we fucking just like build a massive buffer at the start. The ruthless part of me would then be just run the fuck over and win by 100 goals. Fucking make them feel like shit because they are. But I still have that fear that we could just have those momentum shifter games, which I just don't think we handle particularly well at the moment. I'd rather just sort of put it out of doubt and just run over early.
I totally agree. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how McRae himself handles ANZAC Day. It's his first.
Yeah, well, I did read on Twitter there's a rumour that they're going to bring Malthouse in to do the pre-game address because he used to do some fucking blinders on ANZAC Day to rally and rev them up. And then you get a lot of ex-players that used to say that they really didn't know too much about what happened and all that sort of thing, but they certainly ran onto the ground, feeling, like they were walking 2 foot taller. Hopefully that's true. I think if that ends up being true, that'll be massive. Not, I think it'll be the reason why they go and win, but I think it's that thing about just G's you up for the start of the game to get you into that place where you start hard. So if that came out of that, great initiative. Get him in there every year.
And I think the other thing too is because you talked about the momentum shifts, Collingwood actually need a game where they just control the whole game. They need to get like 5-6 goals up and just at least leave it there because it must be entering their heads. Oh fuck! At some point we're going to just, we're going to waver and the other side's going to come back. So for their own development, they need to know they can just maintain control of the game for the whole entirety. Any final thoughts? I'm tipping Collingwood by 26, I think. So any final thoughts?
No, just go out and smash them. Just treat them like they are. Just win and win well. I think that that'll be just a massive boost for everyone, for supporters, players, team, everything. It's just one of those things that you need after the last couple of weeks. You've been close, you played well, you just haven't got the 4 points for a matter of reasons. Just fucking put all that behind you and just go out and smash the pricks.
Yeah. ANZAC Day medalist tip?
Whispery Nick.
Oh, that's a good one.
You can't put a foot wrong.
Fucking book in the hamstring, the soft tissue. I'll go for Brody Mychek.
Yeah. No, I think Deggs is probably the most likely one there, but hopefully he has a blinder and kicks 12.
I hope the guy wins it, and then when he gets booed, he just tells everyone to go fuck themselves.
I agree on that one.
I just want him to cut like a pro wrestling promo. I want him to even bite the metal and then just toss it at someone.
That's it.
I don't want him to hit someone with a chair.
I think it's just stand there, take the medal, and just start cranking the middle finger up. That old gesture with the winch thing. Just what's this? What's this coming up, boys?
It's like what's his name in Guardians of the Galaxy? Yeah. Anyway, that's it from us. We'll be back in front of the camera next week, as long as Spook's allowed back into the state. Later.
Yeah, has anything happened in Victoria that I should know about? Is there restrictions? Or,
Lessons are in charge.
The borders slamming borders slamming shut. I think they've been in charge for a number of years.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be good. It'll be good to come back to the wild and woolly wet. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it.
All right.
Later.
All right. Catch.